Yes.
Hello and welcome back to our super snazzy, super little YouTube channel. If you're a regular, one of our in excess of 2,700 subscribers, you'll know that we've just spent 9 weeks in France, and this vlog is going to be the last in that series where we share with you the cost of spending 9 weeks in France. If you're new to the channel, thanks for joining in. If this is interesting to you, you may want to binge watch the last 9 weeks, or you may want to stab yourself in the eyes with spoons, whichever is more attractive to you.
We spent 9 weeks travelling around the Alsace and Lorraine region, just a small corner of France, because we didn't want to do a massive road trip. We just wanted to be economical with driving and really explore a small area. Having said that, it is the size of Switzerland, so it's not that small after all.
All our figures are based on Calais and back to Calais, because everyone's got their own preferred way of getting to Calais or across the Channel to France or whatever. So it's leaving Calais and getting back to Calais. So that's mileages, distances and costs, etc.
So our list of things we're going to share with you today. How many miles we drove and how much it cost, and things about LPG and AdBlue. Shopping, sightseeing and souvenirs, eating out, and lastly our overnight stops, where, when and how much. And we'll also let you know how we found France to be with a dog, and whether it was dog friendly or not. And finally, how were they with us?
How were the dogs with us?
No, the French with us. Because before we went, we'd heard that the French might not be as friendly as we might expect. So we'll let you know how we got on.
Always one of our bigger expenses is diesel, although because we didn't have a massive road trip this time, it might be cheaper than you think. We did 1,365 miles, a massive difference to our last road trip where we did about 7,500. So 1,365 miles in the 9 weeks, which equates to just over £400 on diesel. Driving in France is dead easy. The road networks are really good. France is a perfect place to run a motorhome. Plenty of fuel stations, and the cost of diesel was, over the 9 weeks, it fluctuated, but it was comparable, a few pence a litre either way, to the UK. We also used 50 litres of LPG at a cost of just over 42 quid. Now LPG in France is everywhere, so do not worry. Just make sure you've got your adapters and it's on the forecourt, readily available. If you're not using refillable cylinders, well, I don't know what to do because it's not my problem. However, the majority of our gas use was the fridge. We spent quite a bit of time off-grid with no electric hookup, running the fridge 24 hours a day. On average, we used 1 litre a day when off-grid. That was fridge, hot water, no heating. We didn't use heating for the whole 9 weeks.
We also enjoyed doing lots of tourist activities, and we went into castles, churches, museums, just like you would anywhere else.
Some people enjoyed it more than others.
What we found in France is that, just like in England, some places allow you in with dogs and some places don't. So not in any churches. Some castles did, some castles didn't. So it was a pretty mixed bag, but everywhere we went, dogs were welcomed in the environment and there was often water put out. So for that, it was a big plus. The best thing we found for the dog in France was when we were in Strasbourg and we found the dog sitting service. and that meant we could go on a boat ride, which we wouldn't have been able to do with the dog. So for us, at the cost of £8 an hour, that was a bargain. And we spent £160 on tourist activities and souvenirs, which included stickers.
We spent just over £700 on shopping, a little bit less than we might in the UK, although the prices in the supermarkets are equivocal. What did happen is one of us didn't drink as much alcohol.
That's not me.
No, mate.
Well, I don't drink, so that's what I meant. I don't mean I carried on drinking.
Normally I like a few pints and a bottle of wine, but I've been on a bit of a health drive, trying to get myself in better shape for when our new baby grandperson arrives. So probably spent 20 quid a week less than we would at home. We tended to use Lidl, Aldi, but what we did find is you can't get fresh milk there. So Carrefour and the French supermarkets were where we would go for our fresh milk, for our cornflakes.
And the French supermarkets, Intermarché, Carrefour, are gorgeous. They're just so lovely to wander around. It just seems so novel to see all that fresh produce. You don't know because he stays in the van with the dog and looking after the van.
I don't get to go to the supermarket, gutted.
But they're really, it's a delight to go in them. However, we weren't totally good, and we did post quite a few pictures of us eating cakes. And if you've been to France before, you know that the boulangeries and patisseries are to die for. And we did feel that we had to do our bit to support the local commerce wherever we went.
You did that by eating your entire body weight in pastry.
Well, we were really good and we just bought a cake and halved it. So actually, we ate half as much as we would normally have done in cakes and patisseries.
So actually, these figures are no use because people who like a pint and like a cake are going to spend more.
So we did spend, which is unusual for us, £328 in cafes and bars, because what we were saving on accommodation, which we'll come into in a minute, we were then using to support local businesses. So I don't think £328 is so bad over 9 weeks.
It's a lot. During the 9 weeks, we used 43 different park-ups. We stayed in cities, villages, little towns, lakes, forests, ports, canal sides, river sides, and some also less glamorous places.
Like car parks in towns. We also stayed alongside vineyards, citadels, forts, abbeys, castles, and ski resorts. So it was an amazing 9 weeks.
We chose to use accommodation near where we wanted to be, rather than letting cheap or free accommodation dictate our route.
Because you could actually stay in France and not spend a penny. There are that many free airs almost in every town and village you drive through, that if that one's full, you just move on and find another. But you could literally do it for nothing.
Make no bones about it, there is no challenge to trying to spend time in France and across into Spain for free. You could literally do your entire holiday, not pay for anything. But we use overnights as a means to access what we want to do during the day. So sometimes it's free, sometimes it's not. And there you go.
And we use Parforite to find them. And again, there's just hundreds of places on there with lots of good feedback from previous users so that you know what you're getting yourself into. So altogether, we stayed in 17 airs, 19 car parks, some of which were in towns but others were in the middle of a forest, 3 camping car parks and 4 different campsites. And out of those 43 stops, 28 of them were free. So we ended up paying between, I don't know, 5 and 40 euros for the ones in between.
Not many at 40 though.
No, that was just Strasbourg. That was the most expensive place. So altogether, we spent £390 on accommodation.
Less than we spent on diesel.
Yeah, which works out at £43 a week, which is not bad for where we've been.
Sometimes we'd access accommodation like a campsite so we could use the laundry facilities. So there's a cost there to accessing the laundry by having slightly more expensive park-up.
And that can be easier, but other times we just went into the local town and used the laundrette, or we used the Revolutes or whatever was near the supermarket. There's always lots of choice, and again on Parforite you can filter for those and find the laundrettes that other people have already found.
Just a note, if you are using Parforite, it is community based, so make sure you update it. We've been to a lot of places where the info were well out of date by weeks, even months, so if you could take just a few minutes when you've left your park up from Parforite and just put a review or a comment on them and make sure it's accurate. Thank you.
That's not sponsored by Parforite, by the way.
Nothing sponsors us because we're not good enough for sponsorship.
So the last thing we wanted to share with you is how we found French people. And how did they find us?
Well, they were a delight. They were helpful and friendly and kind and, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, we
like us.
We had some reservations because we'd heard some stories of French people not liking the Brits. Maybe that's true in different parts of France. But in Alsace-Lorraine, we didn't have a single negative interaction with a French person or any other person, in fact, and it was a pleasure.
We'll show you some footage of the lovely little town, which is built in a citadel, from the drone, despite a Frenchie shouting at me, very rude, from, it must have been what, 200 metres away?
He was in the ramparts.
What, he's shouting and waving, I don't know, I don't understand it, but it weren't pleasant. I had a negative interaction or two in this very van, to be honest.
We always do our best. We try and learn enough words and verbs and language to get through to be able to go into a shop and do something. And I think they appreciate it. Sometimes they didn't understand what we were saying, but there you go.
I think there's an old stereotype about the French, and the French in particular with the English, but regionally I think it varies, and the Alsace region was very positive.
So we will definitely be back in France again in the future. So the grand total for our Calais to Calais 9-week trip of Alsace and Lorraine is, which we think is pretty good value. We've done one of these trip costs before at the end of every trip we've done, and I think this is by far the most cost-effective one.
It should be useful to you because it depends on what kind of trip you're planning. As I said, our last big trip we were 7,500 miles, so the biggie was diesel. So you can pick out the things in there that maybe will help you plan. We deliberately set out to do very little driving, but spend a lot of time in a small area and really get to grips and explore it and enjoy it.
Thanks for watching our vlog again this week. We will see you next time when we are heading off into the UK to get back on the road.
Yes, we've been back from France only a few days and we're a bit bored, so we're off again. Thank you for watching. Thanks for taking part. Really love all the banter comments, although I feel some of them should really be more banterful towards Jane, and I do seem to get the dirty end of the stick. But thanks a lot. Makes our day. Look after yourselves.